Hello, everyone. So thank you for coming to my sessions, today's sessions. Today I'm going to present about this session is about the CICD that for the machine learning pipeline for the Amazon SageMaker. So I think the SageMaker is just announced last year. So we have many use cases on about the SageMaker, but to make the SageMaker on the production is some kind of you have to think about something that kind of the process of the data scientist to commit the code or some process to make your productions reliabilities and high availability, right? So in this topic, I'm going to talk about my experience on the SageMaker and how I have the thinking about the working flow CICD on the SageMaker, right? So let's introduce myself. So I'm Vit. So I'm from Thailand. That actually I built the community in Thailand that we have the meetups, and also we have the user group in Thailand. Then currently the meetups, the user groups is about 5,000 members in Thailand. That is kind of the very active user group in Thailand. Also I'm the heroes and also do some kinds of the consulting and also the instructors for the AWS courses. So here's the elephant one. This logo of the user group is from Thailand. It's an elephant, right? It's a super elephant. Right, so we do some kind of many activities. For example, we have the meetups, and also we have DevOps session, workshops, something. And also we have many supports from AWS, especially from the evangelist, Donnie, that very supportive our user groups. Okay. So today's agenda is about, I think I'm going to talk about the 4 topics. The first one is the CICD on Amazon Web Services. And the second is the machine learning with Amazon SageMakers. And the third one is how the Amazon SageMaker integrated into the architectures, right? In the high-level architecture, how to integrate it with another services. And also the last one is the CICD on the SageMaker. So I have some small demo on that. So let's see the first one. So actually the DevOps is, normally we're talking about DevOps because we have the developers, right, in the companies and in the price. But so we need some kinds of the agility, and also we need reliability and also the consistency about the many environment, right, and agilities to make the process is the good build structures, right? So, but for the data scientists, right? So actually, the data scientists normally they are also the developers, right? They have to write the code and they need to commit the code, and also they have the collaborations. They have a team. So the data scientists require the DevOps too. So they require the CICD. So, but for the SageMaker is the tools for the data scientists. How we can integrate the SageMaker inside the data scientists. So let's begin with the CICD. Okay, on Amazon Web Services. So, so CI stands for the continuous integrations, and the CD stands for the continuous delivery, right? So, so the CI is mean we going to have normally we developers we're going to start with the code, right? The source codes. So we're going to have many versions of the source codes. So we're going to have some things that control the versions. That's normally we call the version source control. That after source control, we're going to build the release of the software, right? So, so the CI is going to build from the source codes and go through the builds. And for the CD, it means from the source codes to the build, and build going to deploy it into the staging. And then we make some kind of the approval process, and then we're going to deploy it into the productions. Okay? So this is a CICD. So CICD, this means why we need a CICD. The first one, because sometimes we are not perfect, right? So sometimes we write the code and we have the bugs. So we want to fix the bugs earlier and also the faster, right? And also how we can deploy and deliver the program faster and also the offense. And also because we are developers, right? The developers don't want to ship the code faster, right? So sometimes that if they have the waiting process, they don't like that. Okay, so it's unblock the developers, and also you're going to get skill factors, grow the skill. So the DevOps is mean the process that is a culture in your companies and also in the price in your startup cultures that is make your developments iterations processes agility. So it's going to start with like a code. It's going to go through the build, the test, the release, the deploy, operates, the monitorings, and also the plan. So it's some kind of iterations that you're going to learning about the process, and also you adapt the agilities of the development process on that. So AWS also have the CICD tools, developer tools that support the DevOps, that is CICD. That in this presentation, I'm going to describe about just some tools that I'm used to use the CICD for the SageMaker. So the first one is a code pipeline, the code commits, the code builds, and also the code deploys. So in the first one, the code. Oh, sorry. Okay. The code pipeline is a tool to make your to do the CD, that is continuous delivery services, that is managed service for the AWS. So it can make your process. You can drag and drop the process. You can define the process of your developments in the code pipelines, and also you can do that like a trigger, some trigger when the code is changed to build automated build and also automate test and also deploy the code every time you make a code change. Also, it's also integrated with the third-party tools and also integrate with the AWS tool also. So, for example, for the code pipeline, okay. So the code pipelines, we start with the source code also, and then after we commit the code to the source code, source control, and then it go through the process of the build. That means you're going to get the package of the software, right? The build, and then after build, you're going to process of the testing. From the testing, you deploy it into the staging, and also after that, you use that build to deploy it into the production workloads, right? So for the code pipeline, this is an example that is, I just explained about the normal workflow. That is in the left side, that you're going to see about the flow that from the source codes, we just save the source code into the S3, and then after we paste the source code into the S3, it automates deploy into the staging and also the productions, right? But you can do the workflow with the approval process also. That is a second in the right side. That after you put the code into the code commit, and then you're going to automate doing the testing on the UI, and then after that you can make the process of the approval also. That maybe you can have like a technical leads to review the source code also before going to push it into the productions. So the code pipeline is like a workflow in your development framework. So it's very powerful tools, right? So the another tools that I use is I'm going to use the code commit. The code commit is a managed Git source code control that normally you can use the standard Git tools to compatible with the Git, the code commits. So it's durable because it's going to store the backup the data into the S3. And also you can encrypt the data with your own key, and also it's no limits on the size. And also you can integrate with the SNS and also the Lambda things. Also, another thing is code deploy. Code build, sorry. The code build is a managed build services that is help you about build the packaging and also the testing and also the ship the package into the one file. And then it's going to make you can ship the package of the software to deployment process. So you can do the custom build environment using the Docker image. And also you just pay only for the compute of the builds, right? Build time that you use, right? And also it's going to integrate that with the code pipelines and also the Jenkins if someone use the Jenkins. So you can integrate the code build into the Jenkins also. So this is the fundamental CICD tools for on AWS that I use. So another one is machine learning with SageMaker. So for the machine learning for the SageMaker, we're going to understand what is the machine learning first. So for the machine learning, it is the field of the AI that normally instead of you going to create the programming rules from your code, so the model and also the logic of the software is from your data instead of your programming logic. So this is it's going to learn about you put the data and it's going to get the rules from your data. Okay. So the machine learning services on AWS we have different layers of the services. For the first layers that is very easy to use is the services. For example, you can use the image recognition services. For example, the Amazon recognitions, and also you can create a chatbot using the Amazon Lex. Right. So this is the services services layer that you don't need to build your own model. You don't need to worry about how you can get the training data because the Amazon just build the model for you. So you don't need to worry about how to get the data to train. You just use as a service. So the second layer is a platform. That means you can customize and also you can build your model from your own data. So this platform, you can, for example, the SageMaker is a platform to build the model of the AI that you can customize, and also you can use the on-the-shelf algorithms. And the last one is a framework that you can very customizations about your implementations. So you can just use the image of for example, the deep learning image AMI. And so you can implement your algorithms and also the workflow on that. So in this presentation, I was going to use the Amazon SageMaker. That is the AI framework as a platform as a services. So what is the Amazon SageMaker? So it's going to help you about the end-to-end machine learning platform from normally the workflow of the training, the machine learning process is that you're going to build your own algorithms, and then you're going to get the data and build the model, and then going to testing and also the deployments. So the SageMaker is going to help you end-to-end. That means you can do all process of the AI, the data scientist things inside the SageMakers, right? With zero setup, it means you don't need to worry about the VM, the image, also the servers, underlying servers. So because the SageMaker to provision it for you. And also you can use your own your algorithms and techniques, and also the library, for example, the TensorFlow, magnets, and so so on. So you can use that library, just the same things that you've done on your laptops or maybe in your on-premise. So you can use that inside the SageMaker. And also, it's paid by seconds. That means if you stop training, also stop using the notebooks, it's just stop the pay for that. So this is the process of the SageMaker. That is, we start from the build. The build things is we're going to build and write the code inside the Jupyter notebooks. That is the IDE that you can create like the kind something of the code, creating a thing, try to compile the code and build some model testing on that. This is the build things. And then after you create your own algorithms, or you use the on-the-shelf algorithm, you just put the data to train. But instead of you're going to set up like a cluster of the servers, right? The SageMaker is going to, you can define, and also the SageMaker is going to handle the servers for you. That is from the build to the train. And then for the training, sometimes for the, I think many algorithms on the AI normally has many parameters, right? So you can use the tuning, right? You have to tune the parameters because some is a different data. Maybe you has to use the different parameters, right? From the train, you have to tuning, and then from the tuning, you have after tuning process is complete, then you use that model and also the parameters to deploy into the production. This is the process of the AIs the machine learning that you have to do from the scratch, from the start to the end. Okay, so let's see this, the first one, that is the build. That is normally the SageMaker is come up, you can create like Jupyter notebooks inside the SageMaker. This means you don't need to provision the EC2. The SageMaker just start the services, and the Jupyter, you just select the instance type, and it's already installed the Jupyter notebook inside. Okay, you can write your own algorithms and also your method, and also inside the playgrounds, inside the Jupyter notebooks, inside the SageMaker. For the train process, you just to submit the jobs to the SageMaker to do the training. So it's the zero setup. It means you don't need to set up the cluster of the instance. So it's also supported the streaming data. The streaming data is this is very important because if it's not, it means that if you have like a data, a new data every day, so you don't need to training the data from the day one, right? So you can training only the incremental data. That is streaming data, and also it support the distributed computing also. You can use ECS, also the Docker, to use your own algorithms. And also you can deploy the train model inside the SageMaker itself, the hosting inside the SageMaker itself, or using the Greengrass, or maybe deep lens, that is AWS hardware things that you can hosting inside your model inside. Or you can use the locally algorithm on premise to deploy your algorithms. After the training is complete, you can do like tuning your parameters. So AWS SageMaker, we have like hyperparameter tuning. That is, it's going to run a large set of the training jobs with many of the combinations of the parameters, right? To test that which is the parameter that is best to your data, right? So it's going to select the set of parameters for you. Instead of you're going to trial and error every time, it's going to generate like a large set of the parameters. After the tuning, you're going to deploy it into you're going to using the model. So it's you're going to define the configuration of the endpoint, because when you're going to deploy the model, you're going to use it as the API, right? So after you training, the model is going to, you have to define the endpoint that is the API that you're going to get a low latencies and also high abilities. And also you can use your own model to create the API endpoints. So the SageMaker also support the built-in algorithms and also the custom algorithms. So you can use the SageMaker on the shelf algorithm, and so you can use like your own algorithm, the TensorFlow, some magnets, and using the containers, the Docker containers to help to build it. Right. So with these things, it means that you're going to you have the tools from the AWS, that is CICD, and also you know how you work on the SageMaker. So the next one is that how your SageMaker is going to integrate it into your infrastructure, right? Because the SageMaker is the hosting your model, but how it integrated with other services, and also how you can make the benefits of another services to make the SageMaker more secure and also more reliability, right? So I think that that concepts. So I'm going to divide the frameworks of the AI ML integrated to the business application with this concept. That is, the first one is the business applications. Normally, the business application is maybe the web apps, maybe the mobile apps, maybe some kinds of the applications that normally you use, right? And the back end on the business applications, we have like AI as a service. For example, you're going to use like a SageMaker to build it as the API, right? So the business app going to call the API, and the API of the AI is going to use the data from the data lake, right? So this the flow is that. Because why the thinking of the different layers is that because normally the business applications, the software engineer going to build the app, right? The software engineer is going to build the application, the mobile apps, and also the business apps. But for the AI services, normally software engineer don't know about the data, don't know about the model. But AI services, you're going to, the data scientist is going to build the AI as a service in your stack, in your companies, right? And then for the data lake, normally is for the data engineer. Data engineer going to handle how we can integrate it, what the data source, to get that. So if we look inside in the business applications, so normally for example, here is the loan approval, maybe it's a web apps, right? So business application, maybe the services of the AWS that we use, maybe we use a Lambda, we deploy the web apps into the ECS, EC2, or maybe we have connected to DynamoDB, and also we connect to the ECS and also the RDS, right? The business apps, normally, if you want to make the automatic loan approval, that is the AI in the back end, it means you have to build the AI as a service inside, it's a microservices inside your private internal API. So in the internal API, to make that, you need like Lambdas, and also you need a SageMaker, right? Because the data scientist in your company is create like a model using the SageMaker. And then the last one is the data lakes. Normally we store in S3 because it's very cheap. So this is how the SageMaker integrated inside the architectures. That is, you're going to make the SageMaker to be the API. So we're going to start with how we can make the SageMaker to become AI ML as a services inside your internal companies, right? So normally the data scientist, right? If you have a group of the data scientists in your company, is going to he or she going to keep developments on the Jupyter notebooks first, right? So we're going to play with is a playground. So they're going to build some codes and also play some data inside the Jupyter notebooks. And then they're going to connect with the S3, right, to build their own models. And then after that, so after they build their own models, they're going to make the SageMaker to hosting the model. I call it is as the backend API. That is the API that SageMaker, the SageMaker hosting the model that the data scientist built. Okay. So, but for the backend API, it means the SageMaker, they don't have like the authorizations, they don't have some kinds of the caching, they don't have some kind of like the method that going to optimize the API call. So to make it like reliable and also the high reliability, we're going to use like an API gateway, right, in front of the SageMaker, right? So we're going to use the API gateway for what for? Using for caching, using for totaling, and so using for like generating the API key, and also maybe we can like handle some like a DDoS protection, right? And also after the API gateway, we implement the Lambda things. The Lambdas is you can like do the transformations of the data, the input output, and also you can do some business logics inside the Lambda, right? So I call this one is a front end API. That is the front end API is the API that going to interface to the mobile apps, maybe interface to the web apps services. So the Lambda is going to call the SageMaker, right? Because the user going to call from the API gateway and then Lambda call the SageMaker. So sometimes the Lambdas, maybe we have like some mapping, right, with the on-prem data or maybe on the RDS. So the Lambda thing, this business logics is going to connect with the DynamoDB or maybe the RDS, okay? So as a services, it means that you're going to build the AI as a service, right, with the API gateway, Lambda, SageMaker, and also in the data science, you're going to have the S3 as a data lake. So the Lambdas from another services going to call from API gateway, not call the SageMaker directly. Okay, so you're going to protect the environments of the SageMaker using the API gateway. Sometimes, if you have a new data arrive inside the S3, you just recalculating and start a new model and start a Jupyter notebooks and then just run through the old script again, and then the model is going to update that, so that the front end don't have to use the another API, the another endpoint, because they could connect to the API gateway and Lambda, right? Okay, so you can use the car wash event. Sometimes you can scheduling for the modeling inside the SageMaker. So let's see the demo. Oh, my computer is asleep. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to try to build the API gateways, Lambdas, and also the SageMaker, right? So I'm going to go through the SageMaker first. Okay, the SageMaker that I use is I'm going to create the notebook instance that is the reinvent depth. This is for the data scientist, right? The data scientist is going to use the notebooks to build their own algorithms and playgrounds of the applications. So I just use the example of the SageMaker that is the breast cancer predictions. So in here, you can see that I edit something from the example that I get I get the data from the S3 that I hosted inside the S3 here, right, the data. And also from here, from the SageMaker, we just download the data, right? We just read the data from the CSV, and then we manipulate the data a little bit, and then we create the features and labels. So this is something that's important, that from the data set that you got, normally it's got like, for example, the 1,000 rows. So normally we're going to separate the data into 3 parts. The first one is for the training data. That is normally is 80%. That is for the training that is going to use to learning the model of the SageMakers. And also the 10% is for the validation. It means if you want to validate your models in different parameters, right, we're going to use the 10% of the data to validate which parameter is the best. And then the 10% is the testing, is the unbiased thing that is going to, after you select the good parameters, the 10% is going to validate how good of the training data. Okay, so after we do the training things, so we have the scripts of define the jobs here inside the SageMakers, the linear jobs. So the jobs we define here, we're going to set up the name here, the linear. So I just put the time, and then we use the container, right, to build the training models. You can define the instance type here, that how big of the instance that you want to use it to train, right? After that, I just execute it to creating the training jobs here. Okay, and after we got the training models, I just do the hosting of the SageMaker. So let's try to run through the training job again. So in the SageMakers, you're going to see the training jobs inside here. That means you can execute it by the consoles, or you can use the Jupyter to execute the training jobs, right? So, something wrong in normally. Again, let's try this one. I think I already checked that. Okay, that's true. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so this is in progress. It means it's going to call the training jobs here. So it's going to build a new one, right? So from the training, from the Jupyter, the data scientists, they can go end to end. It means from the cleaning the data to the training the jobs, and also after that, it's going to hosting the model inside. So for example, here, after I got all of the scripts, I'm going to get the endpoint. That means I'm going to get the URL, that is the API from the SageMaker, right? So I can use that to execute the models. So from my concept of the as a services, that means I'm going to use the API gateway and also the Lambda to call the SageMaker, not publish the SageMaker API to directly to another developers. Just publish the API gateway, right? So I create like Lambda things that going to invoke the endpoint of the SageMakers, right? Going to pass the parameters from the API gateway, and going to pass directly to the SageMaker, right? And also I just built the API gateway, the post methods that has to connect to the Lambdas. So let's try to post. So the request thing that is going to post here is a request body. It's a JSON file. So I just push the test. So here is a prediction score, right? So it means that I can, so instead of, I'm going to publish the API of the, I'm going to publish the API of the SageMaker. I just published the API of the API gateway, right? So, but this is the challenge. The challenge is that this is only for the testing is good, right? Is this the lab testing? It's good because you can just do the API. But the challenge is that how you can do the versioning, right? The versioning of the source code of the SageMaker, right? The Jupyter notebooks. And also how you can control the multiple environments, dev, test, and productions. And also sometimes in the production environment, the data scientists don't allow to touch anything inside the production framework environments, right? And also how you can build the incremental model. So with this challenge, we're going to do the CICD on the SageMaker. So the first one is we're going to do the versioning control, right? So with the data scientists, they all do all things inside the SageMaker, from the data preparations, the training, the tunings, and also the deployments. They all done inside the Jupyter notebooks, right? Because they don't write like any language, they just test all that inside. So my versioning is the Jupyter notebook files and also its folders, right? So it's an end-to-end scripts inside the Jupyter files. So this one is going to be versioning, right? So I just versioning all of the files inside for the folders, the projects inside the code commits. And then, so that it means that if you have many of the data scientists, you can use the same repositories of the code commit to check out and also do the git, also do the collaboration between the code commits. It means that we can do the code pipelines. That means we start with the code commit, right? So the problem is that if we want to deploy the models, we have the many environments, right? We want the test environments, and also we want the production environments. And also we need the approval before deploying to the productions. So from the code commit, it means if we commit the code, if the data scientists commit the code inside the code commit, we would like to package it, the zips, right? The zip of the Jupyter files with the its folder inside, zip and press it into the S3, right? So after that, it means I'm going to using to deploy Jupyters inside the maybe sometime of the non-production environment or maybe productions. I'm going to use that zip file, right? I'm going to deploy it inside the Jupyters. So I'm going to create a new Jupyter's notebooks and get the source code from the zip files and unzip it and execute the scripts that data scientists just written, right? So we can go through from the data preparations, training, tuning, and so deployments with the same scripts that the data scientists use to play around of their environments, okay? So to do that, it means I'm going to use the cloud formations, right? I'm going to use the cloud formations to create the stacks of the API gateway and the Lambdas, and also the SageMaker, and also the S3 is a data lake. It's the same. So I'm going to use the cloud formations from the API gateways and the Lambda, API gateway Lambdas and SageMakers. Okay. After we create the stacks using the same source codes from the code commits, Then maybe we have some like approval process to approve before we're going to from the testing stage to the staging and also for the productions. So we can use the code pipeline to do to help us, right? After approve, it's the same process, the same CloudFormation stacks, right? So just from the staging, just commit after approve, the CloudFormation template is executed. So we do the same things, right? And also from the staging, we do maybe we have an approval again, and also create a CloudFormation template, right, to execute it. Okay, this is a concept that I think is efficient is sufficient for do the DevOps CICD for the SageMaker, and also it's guaranteed that data scientists don't touch your production environments, and also it's going to help you to maintain the versioning control of the source code of the data scientists. Okay, so let's demo the things. So let's see the okay here. Okay, let's see the high level first. It means the code pipeline that I config is has the stage. I think it's from the stage of the source code that I'm going to monitoring the code commits that is going to use the same repositories. And then I'm going to, after it's changed, I'm going to build it, right, the zip it. And also it's going to deploy it. But I'm going to divide the stacks, the CloudFormation stack in separate stacks. The first stack is the stack of the SageMaker, and the second stack is the stack of the API, right? Because normally the CloudFormation is going to be executed if only the CloudFormation template is changed, right? So it means that if I want to use the same API gateway endpoints and also use the same Lambda, right? So it's not changed. So I use the different stack, different templates to separate the SageMakers and also the API. So I'm going to delete SageMaker stacks every time that the code is changed, right? And going to create a new one, right? And then after create a new one, I just get the data from the S3, that is the source code from the code build, and unzip it and execute it, right? So I just rerun the steps. And then I'm going to have the approval process here and just do the same for the production workloads. Okay. Here is so I'm going to test it. So actually, the Jupyter is already installed the Git inside the Jupyter, right? So in the Jupyter, you can access to the terminals. Okay, let's try this one. So this one is stacks of the data scientists. Okay, so for example, here I'm working on these projects, the Jupyter notebooks. So I'm going to change it into change the source code, maybe just version 4, right? For example, and then I'm going to commit the code, the Jupyter files, to the code commits. Okay. So git adds, okay, git commits version 4x4. Okay, and I just push the change. Okay. After I put the change, the code pipeline is going to be executed. Okay. So it's going to trigger the code pipeline. Okay. So the code is changed. It means it's going to unzip all the data from these folders again, right? So after it's changed, while waiting for the pop-up light bulbs, I'm going to show you about the build, the code build, the build files that normally we use to define the code build, the build here, the build process. We're going to use like build specs. It means this one is going to tell the code pipeline that we're going to push, that is a zip code, zip the environment, the data, the source codes into the S3 and zip it as the notebook.zip, right? And then just copy it into the S3 that I just create, and then just zip all the files there. Okay, this is a build from the code pipeline here. So we just finished the zip code, zip the data. Then it's going to execute to deploy the SageMaker environments. So actually, I have the old stacks. That is the dev stack. It's going to automated delete the old SageMaker things, right? Because it terminated the old stacks before we create a new one. So this is a car formation. It's going to delete that, right? It takes a while. So here I'm going to show you about the cloud formation that I show you. That is here. So I have separated the templates into two parts. The first one is for the API, and the second one is the SageMakers. Right. So the SageMakers that I'm going to build about the CloudFormation templates to create a new SageMaker notebooks. Okay. So I just define the type of the CloudFormations and also the instance type, right? And also this one is a lifecycle configurations. This means normally when it's going to when the notebook starts, I'm going to automate, have an automation steps that going to call all the process that data scientists just write the code. So it's going to define the lifecycle configuration here. So I define separate lifecycle for the development environments and also the production environments. So in different lifecycle for each stacks, right? So for the devs, it means I'm going to when they start the notebooks, I just make the folders, right? And then just copy the zip file that I just built, the notebook.zips, inside the home of the SageMaker here. I unzip the files, and then I just executed the notebook, Jupyter notebook, okay, the scripts. So this is the CloudFormation templates and the lifecycle here. That means when the notebooks start again, it's going to execute the script that data scientists just written. Okay. Right. So it's going. API is the same because I don't delete the stacks, so it's just the same endpoints. So the SageMaker here is going to create a new one. So here is a new CloudFormation. It's a new notebooks. So after it's created, I'm going to log in to the notebooks and see that the versioning of the file should be 4.0, right? Because I just edited it, right? Okay. So let's waiting. Okay. After it's finished, deploy the new SageMaker, it's going to send the email. You can set up to send the email or maybe notifications in the approval process also. Okay. So when we wait for the deployment of the new CloudFormations, so we're going to see another files. This is the SageMaker YML, that is a CloudFormation for the SageMakers. So I have the templates, the CloudFormation for the API also. That is, I'm going to create like the API gateway, and also I'm going to create like the Lambda functions. These Lambda functions, I just input the zip file here. That is the code of the Pythons that pass the parameter to the SageMakers. Right? It's a very simple Lambda things. Do something flows here. Okay. Okay, so let's wait here a few minutes. Let me check for that. Oh, it's also pending. Also, back to the slides first, and then we're going to see the things work. So the code pipelines, the benefit of this one is mean that you can do the versioning controls of the Jupyter Notebook files, and also you can do the consistency deployments, right? Because from the data scientist, you just commit the same code, right, inside the code commits, and you use the code from the data scientist to deploy the API, right? So it's very consistency deployment from the development environments to the testing, and also for the productions. And so you can do the deployment with the same codes, and also if sometimes you want to do the ongoing build incremental models, you can just use the CloudWatch event to trigger to start the Jupyter Notebook again, right? So it's going to iterating, build the model, a new one every day, for example, if you have a new data every day, right? So let's go back to here. Okay, so the Jupyter Notebook is a complete finish, and then the code pipeline is waiting for the approval. Okay, so to see inside the testing Jupyter Notebooks, I'm going to click it. Okay, so inside here and breast cancers. So this is the test environments. So this is the new version, right? So is this the same version that I just edited inside the another notebook, right? So is this the same versions? So it means that you can, after I'm going to click approval again, it's going to deploy it into the production environments, right? So just approve for versions 4.4.0, approve. So after I approve, it's going to deploy to the production SageMakers, right? So this is the steps that from the source codes, builds, deploy the devs, and also approval, and also deploy for the productions. Okay, so you can see that here it's going to delete that, the SageMakers here. Okay. So this is the productions environment. So so this is the steps that I found that is very efficient. That it means that the data scientists don't need to worry about the deployment on the productions. And also for the DevOps guys, just set up the CloudFormations, and also just set up the code pipeline that supported this kind of the workflows. That means you can do the environment here. So for the code pipeline, you can do across the account For example, if you have many accounts in your environment, you can execute that for the non-production account first, and then get the approval and execution in the production account as well, right? So you can separate the account to do the DevOps. Okay. So in conclusions, it means so you can do the CICD on Amazon Web Services that from the source, build, test, and also the productions. And so you can do the machine learning with the Amazon SageMaker is very flexible and also scalable. The API gateway and Lambda things is going to help the SageMaker totally to protect the API from the many things, many workloads, many the rates that is more than you setups. And so you can do the caching. The caching is a very, very, very good thing to do because sometimes when you do the API, it means sometimes it's the same request, right? The same request is going to make the same response. If you do the caching, it means you're going to reduce the workloads that you're going to hit to the hosting on the SageMaker. So you can use the API gateway to caching some data outputs on that, right? And then you can do the authorizations on the API gateway also. It means you can do the API key, you can do the authentications with the cognito, with some kind of that. And also you can do, for all of that, from the CICD tools that AWS provide to the SageMakers. Inside the SageMaker, we use the lifecycle configurations. To combine that, you can use combination with the CloudFormations to generating the environment that consistency from the development, the testing, and also the production workloads. Okay, so this is all of my presentation. So I think the time is very short. So so thank you, everyone. If you have the questions, right, just let me know, and that's the time. Thank you.